Alpine class, welcome back to story time. It's been a while since we've done this, but I've chosen a brand new book, and some of you might know it. It's The Lion, the Witch and the Wardrobe by C.S. Lewis, and it's illustrated, this particular one, by someone called Christian Birmingham. Once, there were 4 children called Peter, Susan, Edmund and Lucy. They were sent away from London during the Second World War to the house of a kind old professor who lived in the country. On the first morning, the children decided to explore the big house. It was full of interesting things and unexpected places. One room had a suit of armour in it. Another, all hung with green, had a harp in the corner. And one room was quite empty, except for a big wardrobe with a looking glass in the door. "There's nothing there," said Peter, and they all trooped out again. All except Lucy. Opening the wardrobe door, she saw several long fur coats hanging up, and immediately got in amongst them. As she went further in, she noticed, to her surprise, that the soft furs began to feel rough and prickly, just like the branches of trees. A moment later, Lucy was standing in the middle of a wood with snow under her feet and snowflakes falling through the air. Lucy felt a little frightened, but very excited too. Ahead of her, between the dark tree trunks, a light was shining. She walked towards it. Crunch, crunch over the snow. It was a lamppost. As Lucy stood wondering why there was a lamppost in the middle of a wood, she heard a pitter-patter of feet, and then a very strange person stepped out from among the trees. From the waist upwards he was like a man, but his legs were shaped like a goat's. He had a pleasant little face and curly hair, out of which stuck 2 horns. He was a fawn. When he saw Lucy, he gave a start of surprise. "Good evening," said Lucy. "Good evening," said the fawn. "Excuse me, but are you a daughter of Eve?" "My name is Lucy," she said, not quite understanding him. "But, forgive me, are you what they call a girl?" he asked. "Of course I am," replied Lucy, thinking his questions very strange. "I've never seen a son of Adam or a daughter of Eve before," said the fawn. "I'm delighted to meet you. My name is Tumnus." "I'm very pleased to meet you, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy. "And may I ask, O Lucy, daughter of Eve," said Mr. Tumnus, "how have you come into Narnia?" "Narnia? What's that?" said Lucy. "This is the land of Narnia," said the fawn. "Everything that lies between the lamppost and the great castle of Cair Paravel on the eastern sea." "I got in through the wardrobe in the spare room," said Lucy. "Ah," said Mr. Tumnus, "if only I had worked harder at geography when I was a little fawn, I should know all about these strange countries." "But they aren't countries at all," said Lucy, almost laughing. "It's only just back there. It's summer there." "Meanwhile," said Mr. Tumnus, "it is winter in Narnia, and has been for ever so long, and we shall both catch colds if we stand here talking in the snow. Daughter of Eve, from the far land of Spare Oom, would you like to come and have tea with me?" "I'd like that very much," said Lucy, who was feeling quite hungry, "but I won't be able to stay long." And so Lucy found herself walking through the wood, arm in arm with the fawn, as if they'd known each other all their lives. They'd not gone far when Mr. Tumnus led Lucy into a little cave, where a wood fire burned merrily. Lucy thought she'd never been in a nicer place. tea? There was a nice brown egg each, sardines on toast, toast with honey, and finally a sugar-topped cake. The fawn told Lucy wonderful tales of life in Narnia, about midnight dances with the wood nymphs and water sprites, about the milk-white stag who would give you wishes if you caught him, and treasure-seeking with the red dwarfs. Then he took up a little flute and played a tune that made Lucy want to cry, and laugh and dance all at the same time. Finally she said, "Oh, Mr. Tumnus, I'm sorry to stop you, but I really must go home." To her surprise, the fawn's brown eyes filled with tears. Oh, I'm such a bad fawn," he sobbed. Lucy put her arms around him and gave him her handkerchief. "No, you're not," she said. "You're the nicest fawn I've ever met. But what have you done?" "I'm in the pay of the White Witch," Mr. Tumnus wept. "It is she that has Narnia under her thumb and makes it always winter and never Christmas. Think of that." "How awful," said Lucy. "But what does she pay you for?" "That's the worst of it," said Mr. Tumnus with a groan. "I had orders from her that if I ever saw a son of Adam or a daughter of Eve, I was to catch them and hand them over to her." "But you won't, will you, Mr. Tumnus?" said Lucy anxiously. "If I don't," he replied, "she'll wave her wand and turn me into stone so that I will be a statue in her horrible house." "I'm very sorry, Mr. Tumnus," said Lucy, "but please let me go home." "Of course I will," said the fawn. "I can't give you up to the White Witch, not now that I know you. But we must be off at once. The whole wood is full of her spies." So they hurried through the darkness back to the lamppost. And that's the end of chapter 1.